Good morning and welcome to the first of hopefully lots of amazing presentations today. I'm sure mine will be forgettable, but that's fine. My name's Krista Rickard and I am a lead digital product manager at Capital One and marathon runner. That's my intro already stolen, so we'll move on. I started life in South East London and moved to the Midlands to go to Loughborough University where I studied psychology. I actually did a 4-year degree, so I spent a year at Ernst & Young in their fraud and dispute investigation service, which I really enjoyed. The problem solving and the depth of detail you got into was great. The accountancy exams were not. And so when I actually left university, I went on to management consulting in Accenture, where I had some amazing experiences. I started with Vodacom South Africa, where we did a digital supply chain transformation. I went on to Sky, where I worked on their Sky VIP loyalty program. That was lots of fun, and probably my first taste of product management might be a thing. And then I went on to Flight Global, so a bit of a slightly different industry, and looked at digital Salesforce implementation, changing the way they approached origination. Having spent lots of that time in hotels in southwest London, I decided that I'd really quite like to go to my home, which was now the Midlands. And so I looked around at the local companies. Capital One had an amazing Glassdoor review, or score at the time. So I went and interviewed there, and it was a really fun interview. It was basically, here's a whiteboard, how would you change what we do with the mobile app? So following that, I joined Capital One and found myself with a lot more free time not spent on the M1. And in that time, I was like, right, need to start looking after myself a bit better. I'm not now eating snacks at whatever time of night while I'm still working, and started running. I have a really sporty group of friends. They run triathlons and other things, and I very quickly learned I'm not that quick. They're very speedy, I'm not. But what I did learn is that I'm quite stubborn and I can keep going even though everyone else has left. I actually finished my first 10K with a broken ankle, just to put in context how stubborn I am. So I think once that had healed, we were coming into 2020, lockdowns were happening, running became infinitely more attractive. And so I just started clocking up the miles. And by July 2021, I'd run my first ultramarathon, which was actually my first ever race as well. It's a bit of a weird one, but a great experience. A little bit about who I work for. So Capital One in the UK, for anyone who doesn't know, we do credit cards. We're not a radio station. Loads of people ask me if I work in radio. It's not that. And we have a really good set of products for people who are new to credit, people that have maybe had a bad experience with it in the past, or people who are really focused on building their credit score. And that's really important. It gives us a massive sense of responsibility, because if we get this wrong for those customers, credit file impacts last year's. We really need to be focusing on getting it right, because then if you get that right for someone who's on their first credit card or building their credit score, you start to unlock all sorts of opportunities in the future for them around home ownership or car loans that otherwise they just don't have access to. And so quite rightly, we're really heavily regulated because what we do could impact people for a long time. In the UK, we're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. So they have an entire handbook about how we should conduct our business. And on top of this, we actually are part of a much larger American bank. So they have a whole host of regulators that we also have to make sure we are compliant with. So this year, as you might have guessed from the title, I focused on a couple of key challenges. One being my ultramarathon running, and the other being looking at innovation in an industry like this. The first challenge I took on, or signed myself up for in January when I was optimistic, was what's called the Peveril 33.
Good morning, Charity.
Which, in theory, is a 33-mile race around Peak District.
Good, how's your morning going?
Good.
33 miles doesn't sound like much more than 26.
I was shocked.
But the last 7 miles are really, really tough.
All right.
And mentally,
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
hard.
Here it is.
And it's It's the Peak District. So the little graph at the bottom there is the hills.
I am. Yeah, thank
To
you.
put it in
How's
context,
it
the
going for
London
you?
Marathon is about 150 metres of climbing. This has 1,500.
Below, yeah.
So it's fun. And it's pretty much all off-road. So even the downhills
Yeah.
are like slippy rocks and tree roots and whatever else you can fall over.
It is a really fun drive.
Not forgetting cows that just
Yeah,
everywhere
no
in
no
Derbyshire.
big stress. Get the
And
top,
actually,
joke around for a bit.
given that it's off-road, it's really hard to track exactly how long it is. So even before you set off, the last mile marker on that elevation profile is 34 miles, not 33.
So Charity, this is Ruth.
My
She is
second,
like
but
the
by no
brains of the
means lesser
operation.
challenge this year
I'm
has
nearly the
been
face.
driven by the fact that our
But in
customer
a few
borrowing
minutes,
behaviours,
the booth in the back,
expectations
they
and
can
needs
get
are
a
starting to
microphone
change.
for you
There's
whenever
been
you're
a
comfortable.
massive
And tell me,
influx of
how do I
unregulated
say-
providers.
Am I
like
saying
Health,
charity
that might have heard of
correctly?
a few,
Okay, charity.
who allow you to spread the cost of purchases.
Okay.
And although there's a
does.
bit of
It does.
uncertainty
Okay.
about
All right.
in
There's
the
a
long term
million
who's
ways
right
to
for
butcher
customers,
people's last names.
they actually meet a
And-
lot of their changing needs. They have predictable timelines.
Alright.
People feel like they're
All
flexible.
right, let's go
and
with
they're
what your
really
dad
convenient and
says then.
accessible.
All right, wonderful.
And so our challenge this year, or the challenge I took on, was how can we better
you
meet
like
those changing
your
needs?
coat
And
check?
actually, these companies are moving really quick. We can't move at the pace we normally do. So how can we unblock some of
How are you
that
feeling?
and
Take,
move
take a
quicker?
breath. Do you
But
need a
still be
drink or
working.
anything?
We are in a regulated industry.
All right.
We're never going to step into some of the boundaries that other companies might be pushing. And it turns out that between those two challenges, throughout this presentation, I'm going to really stretch out the metaphor and explain like where things have been similar,
Morning.
how we've approached things in a similar way.
Thank you so much.
The first thing any ultramarathon runner will tell you is that just getting to the start line is a massive win. Like surviving the training without injury or quitting because it's ridiculous is, a huge win. There's so many people that sign up for stuff and then never get to the start line. And it's really similar, or has felt very similar, with our innovation journey. I've done all of the trying to build a thing based on our legacy system, which then I've had to compromise on the proposition because we can't quite do the thing we want to do. And actually, it's going to take us a really long time and cost loads, and now your value doesn't match your cost, and so it all falls apart. But by doing all of that, I now know what I want and how I want to work to try and get through it. So when we kicked off the Beyond Lab, as we called it, we actually made a document of all the big rocks, all the things that were like, oh, this is really tough, this takes ages, this adds 12 months on any timeline. And we shared it upwards. It went all the way up to our CEO. These are the things that we're going to need to challenge. These are the things that we're going to have to really, if we're going to work differently, we need to do differently. And some of them, it was like, yeah, great, go fix that. So procurement, we just brought the procurement team in, or we had one team member in our team. She knew what we were doing. That meant that we didn't have to do all handover processes. She got on board with a let's really move quickly. We cut procurement in less than half by the end of this. That was great. Some processes, like we've got global technical governance processes that are there for very good reasons and require, US senior stakeholders to sign off. We got a hard no on, that's not a thing. And so we had to, that's not a thing you can change. And so we had to really balance the moving safely, moving compliantly, but trying to move at speed to get where we needed to. And that's, again, another similarity with ultramarathon running. It's, when you're training for ultra, it doesn't matter whether it's 33 miles, doesn't matter whether it's 50 miles, you're generally never going to train over 20 miles because your injury risk is so high. So in one day, you might do an odd trail marathon as part of your training, or as part of your program that gets you to your ultimate goal. But generally, it's not worth the risk. But what we can do is you can go out again the next day and run 15 miles on really tired legs with a brain that doesn't really want to work and build all that mental resiliency while cutting your injury risk right down because you've given your body time to rest. This is actually at the end of one of my training trail marathons. And Georgie and Nat, who are in the picture with me, are 2 people that I somehow managed to convince to run really far with me and up big hills. And although they cursed me several times on this marathon, I would never have finished it with such confidence and with such a big smile on my face as I did with these 2. But yes, you've got to build your own personal mental resiliency, but you also really need people that are going to bring that energy and help you get there and build your confidence with you. And I feel totally the same about my Beyond Lab team. You know, we knew it wasn't going to be easy. If it was easy, we'd already be working in that way. And so we needed people that were going to bring the energy. I needed people that were going to own it and feel like it was theirs, act like founders. We really early on did an activity where we gave everyone, or everyone assigned themselves, a chief of role. There was only 7 of us. We were trying to run like a lean startup. So we were like, fine, you be CTO, you be chief risk officer. We need a risk officer because of what we do. You know, I was chief product officer because why not? And it didn't mean that we all went and worked in silos. It just meant that everyone really felt accountable for their area. I ended up really leaning into the technical architecture side. You know, when you've only got a team of 7, you haven't got multiple people to bounce ideas off. Our chief risk officer really leaned into the customer research side and really got the customer understanding. And, you know, it wasn't easy because we were all then doing a few people's jobs at once. We were trying to embrace the startup mentality, which meant it was hard day to day. And so we needed people that were going to be able to come in each morning and with a smile and be like, it's fine guys, we've got motivation, we can do this, bring the belief. And part of that, or a big part of that, is knowing where we wanted to get to. In ultramarathon running or any off-road running, it's really easy to just be really focused on, I want to go really fast in that direction. But you've got a course and really easy to miss turnings or miss a stile. These stiles are like built into the walls. You can't see them from far away. You end up doing laps of a field trying to find it. You know, and so knowing where you're going is really important. The Peak District Ultras, there's no way marking on them. They're all self-navigated. There's no mile markers counting you down. There's no big sign that says turn left here. And so knowing where you're going has a massive impact on your chance of success. Which is very much the same for us. You know, we brought 7 people together on this team that really wanted to change how we worked and really wanted to drive at pace and move at speed and get something in market. But we were obviously there at a big risk of running at anything quick rather than the right thing quickly. And so we took the time at the beginning. We wrote a product vision. We wrote a vision for our team. We then broke that down and we were like, okay, so what does that look like in 3 years? What does that look like in 1 year? When we got into our experience mapping, we wrote down what are our experience values? How do we want customers to feel at any part of an interaction with us? And we wrote down our product innovation principles. What do we expect? What are the key things that in any of our decisions we're making, we're trying to drive towards? Things like predictability, customers always knowing where they stand with us. And as well as like product principles, we wrote team principles. These aren't groundbreaking. These are very similar to many things we've seen before. They're, you know, be bold. Doesn't have to mean loads. But what I think we really did well, and that I'm going to take away into my next project, is we really held ourselves to account on those things. So we'd have, you know, we worked in sprints to drive speed. And at the end of every sprint, we had a retro. And we said, are we being bold enough? Are we really challenging that process enough? Have we done everything? Are we balancing speed with customer obsession? Have we got that right? And we drove some really open and honest challenges with each other, which was really valuable when things started to get tough, like being able to have that open, honest conversation with your team and be able to say, guys, this is hard today, or my energy levels are really low today, like I'm here, but if I'm quiet, I'm just like trying to get back to it. And some of the stuff that we did to, you know, we knew, as I said at the beginning, we knew it was going to be hard, is break things down into one step at a time. You know, you can build any product, doing anything, you're not tied to your legacy tech stack. Great, but massive. And so breaking things down really helped. In running, I do the same. So on off-road running or long-distance running, you have checkpoints along the way. This is mainly to make sure you've not fallen off a cliff or given up and gone to the pub. but they're really useful mentally, because rather than now a 30-mile run, well, now I'm doing 6-mile runs, and I just need to understand each stage, what do I need to achieve to get over that stage? And mentally being able to go, yep, done that, achieved that, is really, really helpful when you start to really hurt at sort of mile 20. And, you know, we did, obviously it's not quite the same, there wasn't like a clear path for the Innovation Lab, but we did break things down. We were like, what is the next problem that we need to solve? What's the smallest thing we can do to solve that problem or make that learning or understand that thing better? We got into a bit of a cycle of questions. You know, can customers use it? Do customers like it first? Do they want it? Can they use it? And is it feasible? Does it work? And like the board I've put up there is just kind of, that's our early thinking. There's like, oh, we know there's a customer need for something like this. There might be some patterns that already exist out there that we know people can use. People can use sliders to say how much they want to borrow, for example. That's a pattern. We expect people to be able to use it. And there's a bit of a like feasibility scoring on there of a like, roughly, do we think we could build it? Does it have massive compliance issues? Do we need ops? Do we need someone on the phone to help? Those sorts of things, which is all great in theory. It gets really hard when you get a bit further on. We set up a research panel, so we didn't have to keep going through recruitment cycles. We had a panel of customers that we could reach out to. So our first question of, do customers want something and can they use it? We were able to do pretty quickly. We were able to get in front of customers with new concepts pretty quickly. We were able to get in front of them with prototypes pretty quickly. And it meant that, you know, we could cycle through ideas and count them in or discount them without obviously having to invest and get to build before we've realised that no one actually likes it or it's given them a gut ick for us. The harder bit was, does it work? And this is where, again, like being regulated and having potential such big impacts can be really difficult, because we can't just put like a button in our app that says, oh, new product, click here, oh, error. We're not allowed to do that. There's a whole section, you know, on treating customers fairly from the FCA that involves like not misleading them, not making them think something's available that's not. So we have to get creative and go, okay, well, I could put that in. And if someone clicked it, could I fulfill it? Maybe like on spreadsheets or with this hack here or with this first piece of tech that we've bought, working out can we manually do things in the background for customers. Because then as well, I guess the impact on credit is that it's not a like one and done relationship. It's not a buy a bag of crisps, customer likes it, done. It's they have a relationship with us then for years, potentially. And so like you actually don't find out if something works quite often for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and even longer in some cases. So that was the bit that we found hard. And I mean, we're still working through, but we've started trying to get like really creative with our painted door tests and like low effort build. And the benefit of doing the small tests and the small incremental build is you're wrong in small tests and small incremental builds worth of work. You're not wrong on £1 million 6-month investment, hopefully. But you are going to be wrong at some point. I think the Marty Kagan mantra is, it's going to take you at least 7 attempts to get to like a good product market fit. And so you really don't want to spend that first year building the wrong thing. A tool we used quite a lot actually, it's probably the first time I've really used it well, is assumption mapping. So just putting on an axis, what are all the things that we're grounding, what's all the assumptions we're grounding our build in? How much evidence do we have that they're right? Do we have loads of evidence and we're quite confident that, you know, this is true? So things like competitors will behave rationally, but like our direct competitors, are they all going to suddenly go into 0% things that we just can't compete with in a rational sense? Fairly confident they're not. Lots of evidence from our area to say they're not. But, for example, do customers actually even want a different product from us? They have a massive impact. So the top vertical axis is how much impact does it have to our roadmap? Massive impact of actually, no, people just like us for credit cards and they don't want anything else. And also at the beginning of this journey, we were probably much further to the left in the low confidence, like we have no evidence to support they want anything else. By the end of all of our research and demoing and prototyping and quant surveys, we'd moved it much further to the right. And after each sprint, each sprint should be changing some of your assumptions. You should be learning something. And so we moved this around quite a lot. As you can see from the pictures, running also, very trial and error. New routes, find a bog, great, ruin. I say ruin trainers, but just need them to dry for a few days. The picture on the right is my hand. I got really optimistic. I got a really good downhill section without realising just how technical it was. Tripped on a stone, or big rock, went absolutely flying. Middle of nowhere, so just sort of patched up with what I had in my first aid kit and carried on. But rocks and mud are not the only challenges in kind of off-road or long-distance running. I mentioned before cows. Cows really like to congregate around stiles. So an area that you need to go through, there's a funnel, you can't go around them at this point. So you have to get quite good at cow management on this. Also, something I learned, rivers, apparently not a problem, you run through them. Didn't think that was a thing until I started this. And actually there's a really big hill, the biggest hill in Derbyshire is Kinder Scout. And at the top of that there's a cool waterfall called Kinder Downfall, and you have to cross kind of the river that runs into it. No one tells you that most days the wind direction up there blows the waterfall back up at you as you're crossing it. So you just get soaked and freezing, which is great fun. But it is fun. Like, it's working out how to get through all those things, finding those mini wins, creative problem solving in the moment. I wouldn't swap any of that mess for a quicker 10k time on on a road. I wouldn't. It's way more fun. And obstacles come up in all sorts of daily life. Once again, in our innovation journey, like most big banks, we have really rigorous processes when we bring on new partners. So particularly if anyone's going to integrate with us, use our data, anything like that, we have a really lengthy, you're sort of talking 9 months plus process to actually get them on board and allow them to do anything that we want to pay them to do. And obviously we're trying in this project to not use our existing tech stack. We are trying to partner. And so we first of all were like, can we just work harder and make it go quicker? Well, it goes all the way up through a long line of senior stakeholders. So the answer is no, there wasn't like just energy we could throw at it. So then we tried escalating to see if one of those senior partners could go, this might be a bit much. There might be a better way to do it. And the answer to that was a hard no as well. I mean, fair enough, it's our data, we don't want to risk it. So then we had to start thinking about, like, could we go around it? Could we push the boundaries? Do we really, we're not trying to do the same thing we're doing now. Do we even need to integrate? Do we need to data share? Are there better ways we could do it that de-risk the situation? And so we started exploring software as a service providers and understanding like what's out there in the market. Turns out there's loads. There's this whole industry of banking as a service with loads of different options that we essentially could knit together to create unique products without having to build anything or do any bespoke build, just depending on which flavour of partners we picked and put together. Which was great, except now I have more options when it came to trying to work through my roadmap. And we could see Monzo doing X and Barclays doing Y and Klarna doing something over there. And we're like, oh, we could do all those things. Like, how do we choose? And what we ended up doing was really grounding ourselves in, like, what were we there for? Who are our customers? And what do they need? Our customers are not always the same people that use Monzo. They're not the same customers that are using Klarna. There is some overlap. But, what is the need we're trying to meet? And that really helped us get to actually probably my first, I'd say, half-decent outcome-based roadmap, just by really focusing on a proper target audience. I think did it better than I've done it before. And that is probably my biggest learning from running this year, is to focus on yourself. This hill that's in this picture doesn't look that bad, but when I took it, I was already 3 miles up it. And I sent this picture to my other half. This was on the Peveril 33 route, and I was like, I'm still going up. And I'd decided, I'd really overheated, so I'd had to slow right down. And I'd decided somewhere in my prep that I didn't need walking poles or running poles or anything because I didn't want the faff of getting them in and out my bag. On this hill, all I could hear was the click-clack of other people's poles as they caught me and then overtook me. And there was nothing I could do because, I mean, if I pushed myself, the way I felt, I was like, I'm not going to finish. I'm going to get to the top of this and die. So I was like, I'm going to have to just forget about time, forget whatever goal I was going for, go for a finish. Well, on the downhill, the other side, I recovered really well, like surprisingly well. I got to the next checkpoint, had some salted peanuts, felt loads better. I caught every single person that overtook me. Like and I wasn't racing to, because by that point I'd been like on a finish mentality. But yeah, that's my biggest learning, is to trust yourself and what you're feeling and what your goal is. And they are the good bits, you know, getting towards the end is the good bit. Running the downhill is great. And so you need to share it. You need to make sure your stakeholders know, oh, we're doing this thing, it's working, we've got goals here, I'm really excited about this thing, there's a customer need here that we need to meet, and, you know, I'm passionate about it. Not only for like stakeholder investment, but to fill up your energy levels for when things are rubbish and you have to ask for more help or more money or whatever you need. You need to keep that energy. You will notice on my Strava post about the Peveril 33, it was 35 miles. It was not 33 or 34. So in that last mile from 34 to 35, I was like, I should be finished. I don't know how long it's going to take me to finish. And yeah, that's where I got to. So I really needed all those extra energy reserves. So I just encourage everyone to really enjoy the moment. You know, if you're taking your small steps, you've got the right people around you, celebrate your small wins. Capital One now has donuts once a month for every team's mini milestones. Not in market releases. What steps have you taken to get to your longer term goals? And even when you think you're finished, obviously I wasn't going to get to the end of this year and be like, product innovation, tick, done. Running, tick, completed that. There's always another challenge. There's a post-run high moment where you forget how much it hurt. And you sign yourself up for new silly challenges. So the lap is a 47-mile run around the Lake District. And similarly, we are going into significant headwinds in the next year, and we need to be better than ever at serving our customers' needs in the cost of living crisis and making sure we do the right thing for them. So there are going to be some really good challenges next year. Not excited about them, but I am looking forward to solving them. So thank you.
So we have time for one question, if anyone has a question. You can join us on Slido if you would like to submit a question, or if you want to just raise your hand, we can bring a mic to you. Any quick questions for Krista? Yeah, right here. And just to repeat for the recording, the question was, what is your biggest challenge, Krista?
In which...
your journey with innovation?
Definitely the governance and tech side. Like we've had to really work around those processes and fighting all of our instincts to reuse capabilities that we have, because we're like, well, we could reuse that, and we know it works, but actually we can't integrate with it, because if we do, we hit X, Y, and Z processes. You know, we were looking at, could we set up a joint venture? Oh, no, because then if we own more than 50% of it, we have to do all the processes anyway. And so, yeah, trying to get that balance right, because we obviously want to do things right and we want to do things well, but when you're trying to set up something small for like even 100 customers to start with, and you're putting it through the governance that's on like a scale for millions, it's really hard. So, yeah, trying to get the balance right between that stuff, I'd say.
Awesome. Krista will be available for the next 2 days for your continued questions. That's part of why we are in a community event like this. So thank you so much, Krista. Let's give her one more round of applause.